Thank you, Clerk Moss, for making sure we get going on this Tuesday, June 10th, 2025 for the Washington County Board of Commissioners work session. We have a full day today. First item, libraries, library funding and governance process, guideposts for funding implementation. Welcome to our team. Oh, by the way, I just dove right into it. Today, we welcome our new county council, Alex Barnett. Dun, 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 dun. Welcome to Oregon. Welcome to Washington County. And for the record, this is Chair Catherine Harrington. I'm joined by Vice Chair Commissioner Treese, Commissioner Jerry Willey, Commissioner Nafis Pai, and Commissioner Jason Snyder. Okay, now the libraries. Sorry about that.
Oh, great. Thank you, Chair Harrington. So my name is Marnie Kyle. I'm one of the Assistant County Administrators and fortunate enough to have Washington County Cooperative Library Services within my portfolio. So privileged to work with Lisa Tattersall. And today we're here to talk about the funding and governance project. So this isn't a conversation about levy, although, as you know, there's always a little bit of line blurring when we talk about funding and governance in library. We're really going to be focused today on the financial modeling and the model that we're considering. It has not been it hasn't been approved by the partners to bring to your board yet, but we're really going to focus in on that model that would help clarify what level of funding different libraries get, and seeking your guidance as we work with the partners to finalize that model and to take action to implement that model. So nothing is final. We're here today just really seeking your guidance. I want to, before I turn it to Lisa, say thank you to all of you, because I know that you continue to support us through these difficult conversations. I know that you're getting phone calls and you're hearing earfuls when you're out in the community or visiting with different councils. And we appreciate that you're on this journey with us and continue to support us. And hopefully today will provide enough information to one, correct some misinformation. Sometimes it's incomplete information, and sometimes there's old information floating out there. And just to say, nothing is final. We're on a journey together, and we continue to be on the journey and plan to collaborate with the partners. So with that, I will turn it over to Lisa.
Good morning, Chair and Board of Commissioners. Lisa Tattersall, Manager of WCCLS. Thanks, Marnie, for the introduction. I'm just going to provide a little bit of background. This is all familiar, but it's important for our community members to just come along on the journey. So I'll go through this a little bit fast. But our main touch point today, as Marnie said, is seeking your board's input and seeking your guideposts, basically, for funding implementation. So public library service in Washington County is provided by a partnership between the county, 9 cities, and 3 nonprofits, together known as the Cooperative. WCCLS is a department of the county, provides funding, core infrastructure, and support services to link 16 library buildings into one countywide system, which benefits all county residents. Buildings are operated by our partner agencies, and partners provide staff, physical collections, programs, and services. The WCCLS Executive Board is composed of the city managers or assistant city managers from our 9 city partners, along with the president of the boards of our 3 nonprofit associations. The Executive Board is advisory to your Board of Commissioners, and they're a key group that we're working with in this funding and governance process. And then the WCCLS Policy Group is composed of the library directors from our system, and they're advisory to the Exec Board and WCCLS. They're also on the journey with us. The next few slides just cover a review of the process and timelines for our funding and governance work with partners. A lot of this is a repeat from our last work session, but it's important context, so I'll just go through it a little briefly. The process goals for our funding and governance work is to improve service consistency and equity across the system and to create a system with a financially sustainable future. There are 4 major process milestones. Back in February, I brought to your board the base service levels and a recommendation for the levy rate. Sorry, I just lost my spot here. And so what we're doing now is here is beginning to work with our partners on the next deliverable, which is a recommended criteria and formula to allocate funds between our agencies to operate libraries. We have used historical practices to allocate funding, and it is time to revisit those with a more data-driven perspective. Staff are scheduled to return back to your board in September with this recommendation. The final deliverable is to determine who does what to provide base service levels of service for the community, and to evaluate and refine partner roles in providing service, how we create mutual accountability for achieving service consistency and equity. Staff plan to bring a report outlining recommended governance improvements that would be integrated into future IGAs with our partners to your board in January. The library system in our county does not work without the contributions of every partner in our and there's a really strong commitment to partner collaboration throughout this process. Since this process is so collaborative, it's really important to have a clear decision-making framework. This infographic here shows what your board supported for the process at your work session back in July of 2023. Marina and Company, which is the consulting firm we're working with on this process, and WCCLS, we continue to reference this framework in structuring our ongoing work with partners throughout the process. As the governing board for the cooperative, your board will be making the final decisions on recommendations that will be supported by at least 2/3 of our city partners and at least 2/3 of our nonprofit partners. Your board is also working with staff through the levy process, and these next few slides just outline the levy process timeline and the funding and governance process timeline. Levy is on the bottom row, funding and governance is the top row. Items in orange are board touch points. This slide shows work from 2024. And then we've been busy in 2025. So we are in the second column right now. Your board, going down to the levy row, your board has a public hearing on June 24th to adopt ballot titles and explanatory statements for the library levy and the public safety levy. And then we're targeting November 4th for that ballot. Going back up to the funding and governance process, we're here to get your board's input on guideposts for funding implementation. And then this will give us information to work with our partners over the summer and return to your board in September with a report recommending funding formula criteria and distribution methodology. Okay.
Don't worry, it's just one engine, no train. Stop.
Like, can you tell from the whip?
I just looked right at it.
Really impressive.
I'm with you right there, Lisa. I was just thinking.
I was like, how impressive. I know.
Magic powers. In the chair.
Frightening.
Okay, I lost my place again. Okay, here we go.
Powers of observation.
I know. Okay, and then the next slide just shows July 2026 is when our next levy cycle and our new IGA begins, and that runs through June 2031. The project would close out with Marina and Company issuing a final report with their lessons learned, and then any potential long-term recommendations for our cooperative's funding and governance, along with a roadmap to execute that, and staff would be bringing this report to your board in the fall of 2026. Okay.
30s.
Okay, so shifting to the main topic for today, which is to really hear from your board on any guideposts as we work with our partners on implementation. For a moment, I want to recall for your board the opportunities for our library cooperative. And I'm sorry, I should have had a slide for this, but I thought of it later, so I'm just going to talk about this part. But there was opportunities in the current state assessment back in November that we brought to your board that were identified for the cooperative. And so some of these opportunities are being addressed in the work that we're doing around funding formula with our partners. And so I just wanted to remind us all of those. And so those opportunities for the system were to figure out a way to sustain funding for base service levels, allocate funding with a clear and data-driven methodology, exploring centralization that could increase consistency of experience and reduce costs. And so that's been built into the centralized collections that our partners supported back in February. Establishing a base service level, which would create more consistency of access for all community members. That's also tied with the centralization that we brought back to your board in February and informed the levy rate that we brought to your board in February as well. Clarify operational decision-making processes for the cooperative. That's stuff we'll work on more in the fall. And then increasing mutual accountability for services and funding. That's a little bit of the work we're going to be doing this summer with our partners around funding formula and governance, and then we'll be doing more detailed work on that in the fall as well. So apologies for not having a slide on that. Okay. So here we are. This summer, Marina is working with WCCLS and our partners to discuss implementation of the funding methodology as well as governance issues tied closely to funding. If we implement the funding methodology sort of quote purely just straight by the numbers, we would result in some partners seeing a significant increase in county investment and others could see a reduction. This is a result of the methodology being more data-driven and moving away from a legacy formula, which had unintended consequences of unequal county investment in different areas of the system. The other thing to remind us is just that one of the foundational assumptions in the funding formula is that WCCLS would be taking on the work of physical collection management, ordering books, cataloging them, distributing them to the libraries. That will reduce the cost of operations for our partner libraries and for the system overall. We're working with partners this summer to work through that operationalization of the funding formula. And so as library service practitioners, our partners really best understand what impacts of adjustments, what the impacts of adjusting funding levels would mean. And they also understand how to support community needs. We really need our partners' perspective to make sure the end product is as strong as possible to support community needs. Partners also need time to fully understand what operationalizing the methodology means for their organization and what supports we could put in place to assure good stewardship of resources. We also need time to work through what resources WCCLS may need to provide libraries as the support service expansion in some way. All of this work that we're going to be doing this summer together and the guideposts from your board today are going to help Marina, WCCLS, and our partners develop a mutually agreeable recommendation to bring back to your board in September. So to provide clarity for WCCLS and for our partners, we're looking for guideposts so that any implementation solutions that we return to your board with in September are something that your board can support. And so some of the considerations that we're bringing to you today are the fund balance target. The current target is 3 months of expenditures in our current levy cycle.
Why? I can't remember why, because we've talked about property taxes with the general fund and needing 4 months. So I cannot recall.
Yeah.
Why
No,
3?
this was it's yeah, in midst of time. We talked about with your board and with the executive board back when we were doing the last IGA, so about 5 years ago. And at the time we looked at the GFOA recommendation was a range of 2 to 4 months.
Okay.
And so the recommendation from partners, we had that conversation, and I think there were some folks in the room who were looking, they would have preferred 4 months. Others were looking at 2 months. And so the group settled on 3, and that was the recommendation that was brought to your board. I think,
what does it allow us to do?
Yes, it allows us to basically, if the unthinkable happened and there was some bad situation and we needed to wind down library operations and do it in a sustainable and thoughtful way or a scaled way, basically having 3 months of expenditures is or 4 is enough to basically meet our obligations to partners so that we can wind down operations.
Sort of like what we've experienced with the Washington County Museum and unwinding. Unwinding is complicated.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. And involves a lot of steps.
Mm-hmm. We also, the other issue is, while WCCLS does not have our own sort of bank account per se, separate from the rest of the county, we do not get most of our revenue until November. And so, but we provide library funding allocations quarterly. And so having 3 months or 4 months in reserve also helps meet our cash flow needs.
Okay.
But it is a balance, right, between having enough in reserve to be fiscally prudent and also remembering that these tax dollars are for library service. And so that's always the tension that we're holding.
Thank you.
Thanks for that question. And then I think the other big question or consideration for your board today is thinking as we work with partners to develop a plan to implement, we're going to see some partners needing to scale up their operations, and some partners may need to scale down to meet new funding allocations. What considerations would your board like us to keep in mind as we do that work? And then are there any other factors your board would like us to consider as we finalize the plan? For the last slide, I'm just sharing, this was a page in the levy proposal that came to your board a couple of weeks ago. And I wanted to talk through a little bit here. So there's a lot of assumptions here, but the reason we have it here is just to highlight the fund balance. And so this is a very preliminary estimate of the total cost for base service levels in the next levy cycle. The funding methodology is in progress. We still haven't figured out how we're going to implement, and that's going to impact the amount of funding in terms of the cost basically and where the costs are applied in each year of the levy cycle. As you can see, the ending fund balance is below the current 3-month target in this projection. The other thing I want to note is that the general fund transfer amount is an assumption of flat basically from the current year plus the 4.25 AV escalation. And so that's the assumption we've been working with, but that of course is pending the annual budget process. And
Is that the same assumption we're using for misstep?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
want it to
that,
be the same.
and just as a reminder to the board and for Commissioner Snyder, that assumption is consistent with the board adopted budget policy. If the proposed budget that will be in front of you on the 17th, this proposed budget does not, there's a reduction to the cost. So we reflect that within the R&O to make sure that it aligns with the budget policy.
And so I think the, how we ramp partners up who would see an increase is going to impact the fund balance. And then if we want to look at, how for partners who might see a reduction, if we want to address anything there, that could also impact the fund balance. And so, but we want to just leave room for that conversation, and then we could just get a sense of where your board is at. So I'm going to switch to the policy question slide. Just does your board wish to maintain the current fund balance target of 3 months? And then what should we consider as we work with partners to develop a plan to implement the methodology, where some could scale up and some could scale down? And then any other factors the board would like staff to consider as we work with partners this summer. Thank you.
So it's a little early. I'm more than happy to prime the pump if that helps everybody get going. On the 3 months, so I really appreciate your recapping that for us. I feel like I'm having to balance between, in the unlikely event that we need to wind down, versus the quarterly distribution. So I want to ensure that we're not putting Washington County resources at risk or partners at risk in terms of the quarterly distributions. So does that mean I'm firm on 3 months? No, not necessarily. The outcome I'm looking for is that you're able to achieve the quarterly distribution. So in that regard, I like the target of 3 months. So when I look at the chart, 2.8, 2.9, 2.7 months, close is close enough. In the outer forecasted years, FY 30, 31, then it starts to dip below that.
Mhm.
And
The forecast is also less precise at that.
exactly.
too.
So that's where I want to say, okay, well, I really don't get nervous until it's 2 or below. And then I'm like, okay, well, we're getting by on the quarterly. And so I'm not sure if I'm comfortable in saying, okay, build out to this 5-year forecast, given that 1.8. I wish it would get back up into, right? Now, we had the monthly chair mayor's meeting yesterday, and I went over the levy information for both public safety and libraries from our May 27th work session and our board meeting of June 3rd. And what, to summarize, I'm hearing some mayors withholding their support for the levy because of the initial allocation amounts and some of the cities essentially being in the red versus the green when moving from the current levy support to the current proposed funding level. So I have the chart in front of me. So what I'm really advocating myself as one of 5 is that we set up the transition so that no one's in the red, which means I don't know how to do this formulaically, but given that the ramp up is so significant. So I did the math, and the total gained is 2.4 million. The total quote unquote loss is 1.044 million. And so it seems to me like, okay, we can figure something out so that we're softening that blow. Okay, so no one is going backwards. Some may not zoom up to the top so quickly, and operationally, it's a big leap for some of these, almost double. So it's like, so let's soften that, which may mean that it modifies that transition base. I'm trying to not use the word base, the minimum. Okay, there's the base, then there's the minimum funding through this cycle, and then we go from there. But I can't for the life of me figure out, I'm not close enough to figure it out formulaically, but that's the outcome that I'm looking for, that I, as one of 5, would like to see. And I think it would go a long way towards ensuring that we have more support from our local mayors.
Thank you. That's really helpful feedback, and I look forward to hearing from others. But
Was that clear enough for my colleagues?
Very.
Because you're who I'm sharing it with.
and to reassure you, there are levers that we can pull to accomplish
Thank you.
your goals.
I don't know them.
Yes.
But I have confidence that you do.
Yep.
So I'd like to jump in here too and support what you're saying. And I too have heard from mayors. I had a conversation with Marty last night, and there's a shock aspect here that we need to make sure we can balance. But I really want to make sure that all of us around this table understand that we're talking about two very distinctly different things. We're talking about the levy moving forward, and that would happen without this methodology.
Mm-hmm.
But this methodology is key to ensuring
Yep.
our future success with all of the libraries. So I just want to make sure that we're all on that page.
Well, and our partners may see them more linked than
And I'm not.
they are to
Well, I was just going to say, Jason, that I too have heard I'm not going to support the levy if this methodology gets implemented. So one of the things, and while I agree with the ramping process, um, Jerry and I have worked through this quite a bit together. I believe strongly that we should be listening through this next couple months and taking the advice of what the ramp looks like, how the ramp can be implemented from the partners. I think that that's where we need to get this information. I agree with the 3 months, but as the chair said, I can bend with that, but I also, and I agree with Jason in relationship to the forecast gets weaker, so we can't see a true line there. I think that again, we need that information from our partners. We have a setup with our library directors and our city managers or assistant managers to ensure that we get good information. And I really believe that part of the goal here is to respect the collaborative and let them go through the collaborative process as
So
well.
I'm wondering in terms of, I'm not trying to set some strict rules, but rather I'm thinking in terms of outcomes and principles and
Mhm,
outcomes.
mhm.
And so I just, I stick by all of our prior principles and sustainable funding level, base, certainty, all of that. But what I want to make sure is that we're lifting all boats
Yes, and
and not
It's going to
putting
be
holes.
critical to both passing the levy and having success.
But
exactly.
I totally agree with you in terms of we want the collaborative to collaborate.
Exactly, exactly. And to come back to us with the solution, which, and I think, and the process for that solution, where we need to get is to our end goal.
Mhm.
How we get there, in my estimation, should be that the work of the cities and the nonprofits together, along with their mayors. Because some of the gap here is also in what, frankly, we have, we as electeds need to be talking to the other electeds as well. So, I take that responsibility.
Yeah, sure.
I got, so I've been expecting this feedback for like 2 or 3 months, and I received all of it in the last 36 hours. So that's been an interesting dynamic. I think there's some reasons for that, but this certainly, I was visiting
Don't just talk to me, call them.
the
Yeah.
Tualatin City.
You did, Chip.
I sure did. Didn't I, Grace?
My phone blew up all of a sudden, all these
The
mayors.
I was at the Tualatin City Council meeting just for my normal sort of check-in discussion last night, and we could not move off this topic. I tried multiple times, and I heard from each individual counselor and the mayor that were present. So part of what I will share is from that dialogue, but not just from that. I also had a lot of contact with others. I do think it points generally to the concept that not only do the organizational leaders need to be brought along, but I do think the mayors and frankly all of the elected officials in the cities need to be on this journey on some level. And to me, this brought up the point that that connection is not always happening between the city entity itself and the other electeds. And I think that's probably also true for the executive directors and the board members in the non-city jurisdictions. So I think that should be a learning generally. One topic that got a lot of feedback both during the Tualatin City Council meeting and also afterwards from their staff person who is, I think, serving in that role, is that they really feel like the service level discussion really needs to include an equity discussion that they feel like has been missing. So that's the specific feedback for you. And if there are questions about that, I think that we could certainly engage some of the Tualatin staff and counselors and mayor on that.
Jason, can I ask a
Yeah,
question on that?
go for it.
What, give me a little bit more information on equity.
They did not give more context in this, and I did not push them on defining that. I was taking feedback and listening, and I did not ask them, what does that look like in this what it clearly meant to them, though, that I will acknowledge is that they know what our principles are around sort of One Washington County and using this view of the work and having a belief or a feeling that that work was not.
So are you trying to highlight that there is an opportunity to have that individual city councilor engaged with their library director, with their city administrator, and with our leads on this to suss out, to explore what is below that articulation?
Sure, though that piece of feedback came broadly from both their city leaders and staff leaders and from their council. So there is definitely something to explore there that is beyond what my discussion was.
Is that a
giving it to you
reasonable
to have it.
request for some further
No,
exploration
thank you.
on that?
Thank you for bringing this up. And I just wanted to, a couple things, reassure that this request conversation has come up in the last meeting with the city managers and the library directors. And at least on the very high surface level, they have talked about equity considerations being applied to access to services. So using examples like in certain parts of the county, they don't have access to services like other parts of the county. And so community members are dependent on the library and they use like cooling centers or in the winter time, those access to information that it's not as easily accessible. So I'm not saying any of these things are right or wrong, but that's the kind of examples we've been hearing. And we do understand, and I think in the upcoming summer meetings, as we continue to have these collaborative conversations, we understand we have to kind of dig down, because my guess is that if you asked every library director and city manager at the different tables what did they mean by equity considerations, that we would get different answers.
Very possibly.
So yeah,
I just think it's a conversation that needs to be had, probably in more depth. And the other feedback I would have is I have similar thoughts around the fact that we need to be supporting. I mean, I shared with you a month or two ago that I was concerned about the what the impacts were going to be to local libraries. I did raise some of our feedback and concerns around indirect costs and other things that are really impacting some of the libraries. And I think that we should not lose, we collectively and all the cities should not lose sight of that conversation as well. Other feedback I got, and this is interesting, is I think many of our city partners are concerned around the centralizing of the collection for reasons that maybe we don't fully appreciate, really being a big motivator for their staff. And one of the things library staff and librarians love to do is buy materials and meet community needs and put that into their local libraries. And so, while we may look at it as a budget play and an efficiency play, it has a potentially a more profound impact on their staff retention and just sort of the general happiness of working in a library, having a library, et cetera. And I think we need to just be, I think you all in particular, but we all need to be collectively aware of that and trying to figure out how if
We have been very aware of it for over a year now. But we have yet to hear any other solutions from them. And so it is what it is.
Well, and I think the other balance to that, if we don't make that move, we've got another $4 or $5 million delta that we have to figure out. And is that worth it on a year-to-year basis? I don't think so. I mean, I'm willing to make that sort of judgment call and try to explain that. I didn't hear anyone. I think
so. In the interest of time, because we're already over and we have two more commissioners we need to hear from.
Wrap it up. Got it. I think I've said what I need to say.
Okay.
We got to lift all boats.
I think I'd use the same but different term, and that is do no harm.
Yeah.
Um,
That too.
and when I, this is a little bit, I'm taking this a little bit on me, Lisa, because probably we should have had this conversation in a little bit more um, in definition, I guess, than I did. But when I look at the allocations, and we talked about the allocations, we knew that was going to be an issue. But I didn't go to the flip side of it, saying, can a library go from 600,000 to a $1.3 million and efficiently spend that money? And even do they have the capability to spend that money? And I think that's what's been brought to my attention is we want to bring the libraries up, especially the smaller libraries, give them an opportunity. But it's kind of like we won the lottery. So now what do we do with this money? And it's not necessarily efficiently spent at the cost of some of the other libraries that do a lot of the things you talked about from the standpoint of additional services, uh, warming, cooling, community gathering place, meetings, all those kinds of things that their cities effectively pay for because it's above and beyond what a library typically would do. So, yeah, I think we're going to need to look at the philosophy behind this allocation schedule a little bit more closely. And when I say do no harm, I'm looking at some of this a little with a different lens, I guess, and thinking we probably should have more conversation about that. Okay.
I did.
I'll jump in here, Chair. Thank you for your presentation, both of you. Um, yes, the chair had some meetings with the mayors. A lot of us got some phone calls, and but the thing I learned is this, and it's a lesson learned for all of us, is not everyone is tracking our information. I remember when you came and did a presentation to us about the collection and really articulating the metrics, why what metrics we're using and why, the reason why, and going over the survey. And not a lot of people are aware of those metrics. So I think it's the lesson and the aha I had yesterday is we really need to not slow down, but to educate our partners to bring them along this journey. It's it's a little bit of work for us because if this is impacting me, I would be watching. But people have a lot of competing priorities and competing demands. So I think we need to roll out an educational campaign to our partners to perhaps present them this information in an open session in their meetings and whatnot, engage them and educate them about the metrics because
I disagree with you.
yeah, go
I
ahead.
don't see it that way at all. Do you know how many times the library levy has been to the chair mayors with copious amounts of information? And how much time our staff has spent with our partners? They have complete access to the data. There are just certain things that they don't like right now.
Right now.
And we've hit the nail on the head in the phrase of do no harm.
Yeah.
That's the sticky wicket, the big one. They're also playing it out in terms of, well, we'd rather not have to weigh in for support now since all the details haven't been worked out through the process that we laid out years ago and that have been used with cycle after cycle after cycle. So I don't agree with you that we have to do something more.
Yeah, but I think we're in a predicament where
We have
the
to
information
be brave with where we are now and stick with the program, knowing that there are certain levers that need additional support.
And we're listening to feedback and we're providing staff more direction.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, this is the board direction. You can't just take one person's direction, but I think what ideal situation is, yes, the mayors are getting, and the mayors are busy, they run, for the whole city, but there's a councilors that co-serve with them, and they have to be on this journey too. And what I'm learning is not everybody is on this journey at the same level, and it's not our responsibility, I agree with you, but what can we do to bring them along? What more can we do? Is there room in your engagement framework, go to city councilors and engage them? Is that, yeah, you,
No, I don't think it's reasonable for any of us to expect that our staff is going to go before every single city council. We rely upon a system of having city managers, library directors working with their full city councils. Now, it's hard that they have part-time city councilors and there's only so much time to do all the work of the city, just like we have to do all the work of the county.
I agree, but this is a Washington County Cooperative Library Services. So at one point,
So there's nothing
all the cities,
extraordinary about the process.
What I guess how I would respond is that I think that our city manager partners at the table would be really happy to partner with us. And because I also heard from several of you that we need to not only bring the organizational leaders along, but the elected officials
Correct.
along. And I think they would be anxious to partner with us in that way to help
I haven't
help get
been
that
already.
information.
Yeah, that's sort of a,
That's my,
I didn't say it, but I was thinking it.
yeah.
Well,
There
and-
isn't anything we've been doing to
Yeah.
preclude them from that. We've been talking about this topic in open session. All of the information's posted as part of our packets. There is no rocket science here.
yeah, but I want to throw a little bit of a grace to the city councilors and city mayors out there. Many of them are volunteers, and especially the city councilors, they get a stipend. So not everybody is a full-time like we are and dedicated. And then the city managers are running the whole city. So I think we should be just a little bit graceful and find time in your schedule to try to entertain that or try to figure out what magic you can happen. It doesn't have to be my idea, but what magic can you make happen in terms of disseminating this information and bringing everyone along the journey? Not 100%, but here's our own idea, scaling up is scaling down, which service, which.
So I think
counselors.
you should inform Commissioner Fye of what I've had the opportunity of being informed by, is how many different offline meetings you have had with different folks. We
But I'm
have,
suggesting public meetings, like city councils, just go to one of the city councils meeting and present. The city manager can put you on the agenda and you go and present this information. And it doesn't have to,
you have
of
2
all
minutes to finish this up.
I will,
Well,
okay, I'll
well-
try to be succinct here, but see if you can go to city councilor meetings and present this information so that everyone knows where we are with this journey and that there's no, the public safety levy and the library levy isn't a leverage here. Those are separate. And I'm not sure, as everyone articulated, I agree, people understand. So just take that back. I won't take the whole full 2 minutes, but yeah.
I don't know that that's the most effective way to allow the city elected leaders to give feedback.
I think that what we have to be cautious of is we're on a journey, and it's important that when we do start going to city councils with our city managers, that each city council is hearing the same
Information.
place
Yeah.
and information. And so until we come to some agreement with our partners,
Yep.
city managers and the library directors, it's a little bit difficult, and that's so I hear you 100%, all of you saying we need to bring them along on the journey as well. And so we'll
You
work on
asked,
that.
we're 15 minutes over.
Yeah.
You asked for this work session to get clear guidepost information from the board. Have you gotten,
I think so.
Yes.
Yes.
okay,
Excellent.
Thank you.
great, thank you. Okay, Our next topic is board and leadership communication. Why don't we do leadership communication first?
I'll kick it off.
Thank you.
Fine. So good morning, board, chair and board of commissioners. So really exciting news. Hillsborough Recovery Center is officially open. The building is open with limited services initially, with just the Hawthorne Walk-In Center and the county's behavioral health division on site. In July, we will welcome the Solutions Group, Northwest, Project Homeless Connect, and the Peer Company to begin offering services. Virginia Garcia will join us this fall, completing the service array at the Hillsborough CAT site. Always feel free to stop by and see the new building, even though I know all of you were at the ribbon cutting. I'd like to take an opportunity to introduce a new staff member who's in the audience, Julie Craze. Julie will be serving as my executive assistant. She's really happy to join the county as a Washington County resident. Something personal about Julie, she's a grandma and she loves it. She has a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology and she has extensive experience working with executives doing complex scheduling, travel, meeting coordination, and project management. Julie has spent the last decade working at Intel, providing high-level executive and admin support and project management. Chair, in one of my meetings with her, she had said AR, and I was like, oh, we have someone else who knows the Intel language. So
my vocabulary is 20 years past, so there may be other phrases that you introduce to all of us. So thank you.
So some things I just want to highlight in her work experience that will help us continue to evolve as a One Washington County team. She's managed cross-functional initiatives, experience and process and resource optimization, coordinated large-scale leadership training programs and conferences, and facilitation experience. So just welcome, Julie. And I can't believe she's only been here a week, and it's just she's picking things up so quickly and just really appreciative.
Great.
And that concludes my update.
Anything that makes your job easier is helpful for us. So, Alex, you made it through day one of week one.
Chair, good morning. No substantive updates for you, but just to say,
You've got a couple of exec sessions.
Yes. Thank you to the county council's office and to everyone else in Washington County for the warm welcome I've received. It's been wonderful, and I look forward to working with everybody.
Even has his Washington County laptop already. All set up. Ready to go. Email.
To have connectivity.
So I do want to just call out the county council team to celebrate the holiday season within their workspace. They have a holiday tree. They didn't take the tree down this year, and so they called it the Jason Bush, and actually attached pictures of Jason to the tree. Now, to welcome Alex, they took down Jason's pictures, and they created, with Alex's pictures, our branch manager and other funds. So if you do have the opportunity to stop in the county council's office just for a good humor, I did challenge the team not to take it down and make another, funny pun at another county council, because it's really fun to walk in and see that humor.
I think they might have a little bit too much time on their hands.
Oh,
no, it's a creative outlet.
It is.
I know Courtney has taken the day off already. So. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great. Well, welcome. Hello there, Rick.
Well, this is my first week as official acting CEO GM. Yesterday afternoon, I sent out an all-staff email. Just wanted to address the need to rebuild trust internally, talk about some plans to do that, and also be transparent that we are looking for efficiencies and we're revisiting some vacant FTEs.
Have any of you received that? Because I don't think I have.
I haven't looked at my.
So we get all of Washington County CAO, all employee emails, and We've asked before
Okay.
on the CWS side, so it'd be great.
We'll make that happen. Yeah, I'm happy to share it. I also outlined the interim leadership adjustments that need to be made in order for me to fulfill my duties. And I've appointed Perry Sunderland to be the interim director for the Water Environment Technology Group. Ryan Sandu will be the interim director for operations. And then I've moved Natural Systems Department over to Joe Gall. So I'm freed up from that point of contact. I still plan to continue, with one-on-ones with some of the key leadership members of all of those teams. But that will really make a difference for me to be able to perform at the level you expect. I am excited to be working with Joe Gall and get out and introduce myself to city managers and mayors and senior staff. I attended my first county leadership meeting that was on June 4th. I did want to acknowledge Tanya. I got a text from her after our last work session, just an offer to meet and collaborate and talk about the position. And we found some time before that meeting to do that. So I really appreciated that. And I wanted to say thank you for doing that.
Will you be making the rounds to both the city managers meeting as well as the special district managers meeting?
Joe's going to have me booked. Yeah,
Great.
booked on
Thank
a
you.
tour. So I'm looking forward to it.
Welcome to administration.
Yeah. We do have a CWAC meeting actually tomorrow night to go over the West Basin Master Plan. So we've been working with CWAC to make recommendations, and we're looking for their formal recommendation to bring to the board an adoption of that plan. We formed a subcommittee with CWAC for the first time. I think it really allowed us to get more engaged with them and get some better direct input through this process. So looking forward to moving that along. The chair was present at our last meeting and was able to hear some of the great discussion as we went over the key topics. We also had a recent meeting with all the member cities in the West Basin to share some of the findings, especially things that relate to their CIP. We got initial comments back from them, and I made it clear that we wouldn't be adopting the plan until we were sure that we were all fully aligned and all their comments had been addressed. I look forward to talking more about West Basin next month in July. I know that's on our agenda.
And also, Rick and Elizabeth, at least will be joining, CWS will be the theme topic for the July chair mayor's meeting. So, and in advance of the West Basin master plan coming to us, I'd asked that recap, or at least the short page set of East Basin master plan come back to us as well.
Yeah, we'll get you the executive briefing from that one.
Great.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, board communication. Who would like to go first?
I can.
Great. There's more than just your city council.
The 12. Yeah. I don't have to cover much from that. I think you got the most of the gist of that.
Thank you for being so patient on that topic with us.
Last Wednesday night, we had an audit committee meeting, and there's going to be a lot of information coming, I think, and follow up to do there, and there will be formal report outs to the commission soonish. I think the group's doing good work, and I would ask all commissioners to pay attention. There's quite a bit of follow-up that's going to need to be done there.
So is that going to come to us in a business meeting, a work session, briefings, or is that our next steps being figured out?
My understanding, and I guess we'll bring Ann up in my report out. It is going to be reported, I believe, at a formal business meeting.
June 24th.
Well, there you go. I knew it was coming soon. I didn't know the exact date.
Formal board meeting or a work session?
We're doing it at a work session. We'll be presenting the response from staff as well as the findings from the auditor. And in that discussion, we'll be talking about how the
Financial auditor.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll be internalizing we'll be talking about how we're internalizing the changes and modifications to the system. In that conversation, we're also going to talk about risk, because there is continuing risk, and we want to just be transparent about that as we make changes.
Thanks, Ann. Last Thursday, I had a one-on-one with the outgoing CEO from CWS, and then a Basalt Creek briefing. We're doing some more follow-up, including this Friday. I'm going to be on a field trip with the LUT team on that. Friday, I had a one-on-one with the PGE CEO. And then Saturday spoke at the Lamb Research graduation for a workforce training program that was pretty exciting and supported by both PCC and the governor financially. She was not there. I'm not indicating that, but there was support from the state as well. Sunday met with the Tigard City Councilor. Monday met with the Tigard Chamber CEO and Downtown Alliance. Had lunch with Commissioner Savas from Clackamas County yesterday on some transportation topics. Then had my session with Tualatin City Council last night. Wednesday, I'll be at the Woodland Hearth groundbreaking. And then Thursday, as a reminder, if I'm sure you've all seen this, but the WEA Mayor's Forum is happening Thursday evening. I will be there. Friday, I have a one-on-one with the new county council. And also we have the bond rating call. I think, Chair, you and I are participating in that on Friday morning, and that'll be when the field trip to in the afternoon. I'll be on the field trip to Basalt Creek, and then Saturday, just more of a public announcement. There's a Juneteenth celebration at Cook Family Park in Tigard. I'll be in attendance there as well. I think it starts at 3 p.m. So that's what I got.
Thank you. Who's next?
I'll go. So yeah, just getting caught up a little bit. Last week, I attended as well as Commissioner Treese, and I think we're the only two there. The Portland Metro Chamber, the VIP meeting in advance, and they made had some presentation. Secretary of State was the yeah,
Minor.
plus yeah. Anyway, yeah, biased.
Got them all, but
So anyway, so that was a good meeting. 600 people at that luncheon. That was their annual meeting. So that was probably the biggest gathering they've had ever. So that was very good. We were assigned to the Intel table, so we got to connect up with a couple of our Intel cohorts. Thursday, I was in Salem all day at the Board of Forestry meeting. Again, that's a continuing discussion about anticipated. They've got 4 different options for harvest, looking out over the next 20 years, 30 years, and 70 years, and beyond that, which includes the size of the tree. How old should they let the tree get, which dictates the size of the tree, which dictates what kind of lumber mill has to handle those. Most of them have changed to a 30-inch log. And of course, a tree that is 80 or 100, 120 years old is considerably larger than 30 inches. So that's a problem. So we're having that conversation with the Board of Forestry, and that will continue. Of course, Friday night, we were all at the House District 26 meeting and made a decision there. It was good to meet Alex. It's good to meet you and welcome aboard. Certainly. Thank you for the time yesterday. Have Salmonberry Trail Foundation board meeting coming up. The WEA Annual Mayor's Forum. I will be there as well. Friday is a President's Work Group webinar, and I will be logging in on that and watching that, as well as other SHS conversations continuing to go. I was at Metro a week ago for that, and there is an updated format from President Peterson's presentation, and so be working with staff on that. And then the Juneteenth celebration is also with the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, and it's at some plaza. What's the name of that plaza?
Some fun guys.
Some fun guys. Anyway, that's all I got. Thanks.
Or you could tell us how you got that plaza named after you.
He was mayor.
That's a good stuff. Good stuff.
What have you got, Commissioner Fye?
Oh, I can go next. What do I got? So last week, AOC, the Health and Human Services Steering Committee, had few meetings that had to deal with OHA's leadership. So we organized a meeting with Oregon Health Authority leadership, and the meeting was about regarding the CFAA negotiations with counties. As you're aware, there are 24 counties that are not signing the current version of the CFAA pending agreement. So I think that is been a quite a discussion, and once I get the notes, I'll share with the board, but it's worthy to look at it and to be on that journey. And then yesterday was also AOC meeting as well, and nothing board level to report. Yesterday was also a WCCC meeting. That was also a great meeting. There was the RAFA project but nothing board level to report out. But one thing I want to report out to you all for board awareness is this: I attended CPO 7 meeting last night. They wanted to learn more about the Cornell Road Recovery Transition Housing Project. But there's more for me to follow up on with staff than but whatever product we produce is with the staff. I'll share with you. And that's all I got.
Okay, my turn. Think it's kind of nice to go last sometimes because you don't have to keep repeating what, what other things are. Going to the mayor's forum. I went to Portland Metropolitan Chamber. Thank you for attending the CPO 7 meeting. The one thing I'd point out, I believe that they are going to be putting forward a letter that is about the property that's just behind the Turpin Plaza regarding some of the development that's going in there. So we can expect to see that too. I did attend, I met with and had a tour of Providence St. Vincent's Hospital's new ER center. I also met with Dr. Raymond Moreno. I apologize, that was not on my external calendar. It was a good meeting. It gave me an opportunity to understand what St. Vincent is doing. They're a large employer in our county. And we talked a bit about the public safety levy as well. And he's Dr. Moreno is as president, he's the former head of the emergency room, spoke very highly of our sheriff's department and the deputies that he frequently sees in the ER. Let's see, I will be attending the PSU Institute of Metropolitan Studies board meeting this week. I had a meeting yesterday with the auditor, our elected auditor, and she talked about the audits that are currently underway, the animal services cash handling audit, the grant process audit, and the identity detection process audit that has to do with GovQA. So I learned about that, and she did share with me some of the concepts that she has about charter changes moving forward. So I encourage you to talk with her as well, and I'm sure you will.
What's GovQA?
Well, hopefully there's somebody here that can answer that question. It's do you know what GovQA is? It's it has to do with government grants and the identification process for those federal
so
grants.
It's grant related.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe that's correct. And I'll get back to you. Let's see, I mentioned I'll be attending the mayor's forum, and I am also going to be attending the Professional Business Development Group, PBDG, event mixer tomorrow night. So that's my
Great.
schedule.
Busy June for everybody. I want to thank you again, colleagues, for participating in the House District 26 meeting last week. Having 11 commissioners is extraordinary, but now having finished our 10th appointment in about 5 years, pretty extraordinary. I was at the spoke at the Dartmouth Crossing North affordable housing opening last Wednesday. It's a truly amazing site. I've been to a lot of affordable housing openings. This one maximized every aspect of the smallish lot on a hillside. I just hats off to Bora Architects and Colas Construction. They took every opportunity, as Tanya calls them, and got double value out of it. It's just extraordinary. I posted a lot of pictures on my chair Facebook page. Have a look. It's amazing. Feels very much like you walk into a home. We had the second Tri-County Chair meeting of this year. This was actually my first, or the first where we had all three of us, because I made a mistake in February and didn't attend the first one of the year. And to no one's great surprise, we talked about Metro and SHS reform, and we're all kind of in the dark. But we all agree that Metro is putting something on the ballot way too soon. The public deserves to see results, and it's way too soon to be asking the public for an extension of the income tax without our having enough time to deliver the challenging results and the great results that we've been doing. Just a heads up to you, if you haven't already met with Family Forward, you all have in your records from summer of 2022, our board agreed upon talking points for after school and preschool for all, especially proposals. So if you have met with them and you hadn't dusted off your records, work with your staff assistant and Grace to remind you about those.
I should get a copy of those.
So, yep. AOC, a lot happened at AOC this month. Firstly, we have the Board of Directors approved the the calendar 26 budget for dues. I will be sure to extract that and forward that to you. You will see it at our district meeting on September 11th, I believe it is. The proposal was to increase our dues 3% for next year. 2027, it'll go back up to 5%. And it has some key assumptions that partner revenue will increase again by 10%. Other very reasonable assumptions on cost, staff, and M&S. So that was the first thing. In the legislative committee, there was the proposal from the Alcohol Drug Policy Commission, ADPC, with their 5-year reduction plan, and I'll send you that 2-pager. It's gone to prior committees, but as you know, I tend to share information with you. From Governance, Revenue, and Economic Development Steering Committee, just the report out that the county fair account lottery cap is moving forward with House Bill 2304A, increasing the cap from 50K to 80K, about a 50% increase. The House Bill 3518-2 amendments for the assessment and taxation funding for the CAFA grant goes to a public hearing with the House Revenue Committee today at 3. They were asking for testimony, but you know, we've got stuff on our calendar. But sadly, this is only with regard to legislative intent and is not statutorily binding. Senate Bill 179, recreational immunity, yay, that was signed earlier this year. And then discussion around Senate Bill 916. Lastly, from AOC, last Friday at the Public Safety and Veterans Steering Committee, good presentation, sad topic though, by the OACCD, that's the Community Corrections Director's Executive Director Jeff Wood, on the where things stand with the state on the community corrections funding and not adopting the actual cost study and impacts there. So current service level is not actually service or is not the actual service level, and just some terrible service reductions coming, reducing of FTE, mentors, peer supports, beds, and sanctions. So that's it on AOC. This week, we've got the Woodland Hearth Affordable Housing opening and TCPB. Oh, I went over. Trying to accelerate it. Oh, and since I'm chair, I need to remind us that we have two other things. We have a letter to the Joint Committee on Transportation Reinvestment that was arrived in your inbox. Are we all set? Okay, and I believe AOC is looking for a Washington County Commissioner to deliver this.
Is that the Friday? That's the email I'm just looking at. Right?
Is there an update?
Good morning, board. We are still working to see if we can have it be done remotely, but it would be Thursday afternoon. The schedule would have the committee starting at 4. We assume the panel will be towards the front. I would look to you, Commissioner Fye, as one of our transportation JPAC folks, and also given the number of you that are going to the WEA Mayor's event that starts at 5, this is going to be a close call for all of you, but we are hoping, Commissioner Fye, if you'd be available to join the panel.
I was looking at Bryn to make my calendar.
Okay. We will make AOC let you be remote so that you have time to go from the round table to testifying.
I love that.
Instead of driving down to Salem like a totally law-abiding citizen and getting there just in time. Thank you, Commissioner Fye. We'll make sure that Carly gets points. Carly is also available to answer questions if there's questions regarding the package, but it does meet our transportation framework policy goals. So happy to have someone else answer those technical questions for you.
She did a wonderful job at presenting that to WCCC members yesterday.
No, she's online, but I will also make sure she hears it a second time.
Great.
Thank you, commissioners.
And lastly, a meeting that I'm expecting this week is coordinated through AOC on the state OHA funding for behavioral health. And so that's coming in, and as usual, I'm planning on participating in that meeting for the board. So everybody else. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. So we'll see how that ends up.
On the formula?
Yep. Yep. Always a touchy subject. Yes. And the state wanting to dictate what we do and how we do it. Yeah. So it was interesting in the Ledge committee yesterday talking about how this is not unusual in that the state and OHA funding difficulties we've had challenges, and Gina's history goes way back given her community health ED work, 20 years. So, but it's really a twister for us. So we've got to stay on it. Okay. Hallelujah. We caught up time. Okay. So we now have 2 back-to-back executive sessions. So for everybody else, we'll be returning to work session at 1 o'clock with a clean water services topic. Have we received any material from that for that?
Yes.
Did it come in this morning? Because it wasn't there last night. Okay. I will download that and look at it over lunch then. So do we have an executive session to adjourn? We have a motion.
Yes.
To adjourn to executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub F for the purposes of discussing exempt records.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. We'll hereby adjourn to executive session and give everyone who's not authorized to participate in this executive session a chance to exit the room.